So, incompatibilities with Christianity. Well, I don't think that necessarily needs to be said, but just to go over a few of them. First of all, what's the appeal? The people that are converting, we're not addressing the random, quote-unquote, neutral citizen that's living under a rock somewhere that never heard of any religion, and they came to Asatru on their own. We're talking about the Westerner. We're talking about the Christian. All of my talks combating the New Age movement, New Ageism is about where Western Christianity somehow meets something from the East or something occultist. And so it's not even an attack of Hinduism. It's not even an attack of the pagan. It's an attack of what the Christian has taken of those faiths and merged together because they didn't like what they grew up with. They wanted to take something new. So these practices are as much an affront to the pagan as they are to the Christian, because they reject both by combining both. They reject what they don't like in each one, and they piece together something new. It's a mix and match cafeteria religion in all of these cases. So 5 key themes, and you'll see these again in a minute when I go over that Marvel Cinematic Universe. Harmonious relationship with nature. It appeals to the Christian stewardship of the earth. We're taught that we're supposed to be good stewards of the earth, whether you take that very environmentally or just that we're supposed to be good caretakers of our resources. Individual honor. We see that with Thor. We see that with these communities. Exemplars of honor, of people pursuing virtue. Again, these are not wholly wrong characters. It's attractive, and it makes the Christian think to pursue them, where they can still work on honor, but they don't have to be submitted to the rigorous demands of Christian sanctification, of being purified. So it's like sainthood light. It's an ability to grow a little bit, but not too much. The sense of community. We have the Christian brotherhood, Christian fraternity. We are the church. We're not one person individually. You see this with the bloats and the symbols, the ability to participate in rituals and fellowship, like we might attend the Mass and, have feast and parties afterwards. Again, but without the rigorous expectations and demands. You see rituals often held outdoors and celebrations tied to the cycles of the season. For the Catholic, that's seeing that similarity to their liturgical calendar, to seeing that it has seasons like we have seasons. To the Protestant, it appeals to the nature of a church without walls. And I say that to the Protestant that rejects this idea of a church as a building. It blends ancient traditions with modern interpretations. So it's getting to have all the ancient and all the tradition and all the legacy and all the fun, but again, without the rigorous expectations. You get to claim to be part of something old without actually submitting to something old and all the demands it places upon you. So, other than that, the key errors, as we said, polytheism, the worship of more than one God, naturism, the worship of nature, shamanism, the interacting with the spirit world, tribalism, but ultimately occultism. Well, as specific examples, according to the Catechism of the Catholic Church 2112, this is inconsistent. It's idolatrous. It worships a creature instead of God. False gods or nature at best. Oneself and individual worship instead. G.K. Chesterton says within his book, The Orthodoxy, that even the pagan was more noble than the selfish man. Because with the pagan, they were still faced outwards towards something outside of themselves, whereas the selfish man faces inwards. He worships himself. So both are evil. Both are against the Catholic Church. The problem is that whatever was started in the 60s and 70s that may have some remote way of been outward faced has become more and more inward faced the more we've gone along. It's convinced them that beyond worshiping pagan gods, they can now crack the code for themselves. It's been compromised. The pagan faith has been compromised. It's atheistic. In worshiping many gods, you reject the one God, backed up by the Catechism of the Catholic Church 21:6. You have the occultist, who relies on means other than God and his grace to achieve happiness, shamanism, and the occult, the false gods and the pagan gods and sacrifices via the bloats and symbols, divination with hammer casting, and charms with the Begbasir. So make no mistake again, as I said earlier, the Vegbasir is not a totem that you can have as a decoration. It is a charm. And not one Asatru I talked with would say otherwise. It has magical properties that are meant to protect oneself. It's tribalistic. Possession of a strong cultural identity that separates one from another, when the Catechism very clearly tells us that we acknowledge one Lord, confess one faith, are born of one baptism, form only one body. And so even if you're not Catholic, even if you're not Christian, the other side of this is that it turns quickly to prejudice, as we see within sections of the within the Asatru faith. You can see that if you're of Odinic blood and someone else isn't, it can lead to racial prejudice and greater atrocities. Now, there's controversy within this section of my talk. There's two theories I know of. One is that tribalism is an inherent part of the Asatru faith. The other is that this has been injected into the Asatru faith by the occultist movement to break up that part of the Asatru faith. Either way, in a way, that racism is the least of those two evils in that case, but you still have racism and magic, the occultist. So you either sell your soul by prejudicing others or sell yourself by trying to outdo God. So, again, from my previous mention, this is the last section of the slides, but I would be remiss if I didn't share this section. Again, not an endorsement for or against the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I think it's key that people understand how some of these things could be attractive, and I hope you're paying attention, Liam. All right, to this part. Now, you have to recognize these things to know how they're attractive, and how you can enjoy them if you're going to enjoy them as story, while not giving into things that could be. If you're rooted in your faith, all these things will be as interesting and entertaining. If you're not rooted, you can replace your faith with this. If you're empty, something's going to fill you. And we see with Harry Potter, we see with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we see with other pop cultural stories what could be benign when a person without a grounding approaches them and experiences them, is that they take them on. We have with Harry Potter the Deathly Hallows now tattooed on people's arms like it's a religious tribal system. Regardless of witchcraft or not within J.K. Rowling, how silly would it be that you have a fictional, magical symbol tattooed upon you? That's going to be interesting to explain in heaven or hell. So we have iconic Norse imagery. We see Mjolnir within Thor. We see Yggdrasil, the world tree. We see various Viking aesthetics. They go walking around dressed in Viking garb, Viking attire. And so this could pique interest in the culture and the heritage of Norse paganism. And so they would conflate accidentally the old Norse ways, benign, with Asatru, a very real and very relevant evil. We see Asgard, which in the original mythology is not that particularly in union with nature. It's a realm of the gods imposing itself upon the earth, not to pass judgment, but it's to say they repackaged it to be eco-friendly within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's at one with everything. It's at harmony with everything, with nature and the cosmos. And so this might appeal to the more earth-centered spiritual practitioner or nature-minded individual. It's depicted as this advanced city that somehow doesn't take a toll on the environment. One might wonder how that could be and how Norse paganism pulls that off. This is actually one that I talked with someone about, that God's honest truth they think is a selling point towards Norse paganism, Neo-Norse paganism. Individual honor, like I said earlier, and strength. Thor's character embodies traits, all the traits of honor, strength, and bravery of Thor without any of the downside of the historical, mythological Thor. And so that's fine. If that is what Thor is, to inspire our young children to embody traits of honor, strength, and bravery are great. We talk within mythological stories and fictional stories about the good side, but they also see the bad side. They see all the times that man has fallen or one of the gods has been vain and petty. You don't see this within this mythology. It's shiny. Even with the character of Loki, who starts off maniacal and mischievous and, quite frankly, a psychopath, within the first few movies that he's in. By the time we get to his recent series in the last few years, self-titled Loki, he's now this benevolent character that was just misunderstood, and he's finding his way to being a great guy. All right, and so they totally rewrote the Loki character from Norse mythology. Community and fellowship. Everything within this culture is perceived as just loyalty, camaraderie, swigging beers, having meat, going out for the good fight. I mean, that's what I want to do tomorrow, but I don't want to be a pagan to do it. We have exploration of Norse mythology. Again, decidedly put here for the colorfulness of this. It introduces audiences to key figures from Norse mythology, such as Thor, Odin, Loki, and the Asgardian mythology, but then you get very particular things. Gore the God Killer is not within Norse mythology, but two different characters within it are. You have various renditions. You have Odin's father make more appearances. You have the Jotunheim at the bottom shown. You even eventually get Thor's goats from the original mythology within Thor, Love, and Thunder. So then it could serve as a starting point for delving deeper into the original myths, which is fine, but without contextualizing any of the less picturesque elements of Norse paganism. So that's my talk. Questions?